Hi, my name's Drew, and we're going to be walking through the Northstar TC650 today. We're going to start right up front here with the jacks. Now, this does use the Happy Jack system. We have jacks on all four corners of the unit. Those jacks are going to correspond with this remote here. Orientation of this remote is going to be from the rear. So when we're looking here at the remote, we have your driver's side front, driver's side rear, passenger side front, passenger side rear. Now when we go ahead and turn it on and sync it to the board, we push the two center buttons first and the two top buttons. That's going to go ahead and sync everything up, put it into working order. And again, from there, we can control all four jacks up or down with these middle buttons, and then the corresponding location here, driver side front, driver side rear, passenger side front, passenger side rear. Now if we look at the jack itself, in the event of a complete power loss situation, you can operate these jacks manually. It's very easy to do so. What you would do is go ahead and disengage the drive of the motor by switching that switch down to that secondary position, and then you're going to use the oversized crank handle to go ahead and manually operate these up or down. That's going to go for all four of these jacks, and that is going to be a similar process. Just make sure when you're done that you do go ahead and return that jack to service by putting that lever in the upwards position. Moving on, we get a little porch light here. Switch is going to be right there on the underside of the light. Very easy to use. Looking down low here, we have a couple USB chargers here in case to let you take advantage of any USB driven devices while you are hanging out here on the exterior of the unit. Moving on here to the rear of the unit, get a little access door here on each side of the entry door. That's going to help you to, if need be, access any of your tie down points when you are loading and unloading the camper. From there, we have your propane compartment here. This houses a 20-pound propane cylinder, same variant you're going to find on any gas grill, easily exchangeable out there on the road, easily refillable. To refill or service, you're going to loosen this tension band here. Of course, unscrew the pigtail, muscle that tank on out of there, and then you can go ahead and get it serviced. When replacing it back into service, just fold the two ends of the tension band in until, it catches here on that metal latch, and we're going to go ahead and latch it in. Above that, we have, again, that similar porch light we saw previously. It does have that toggle switch there on the underside. We also have your folding assist handle. Can either fold against the door like we have it here, against the body if you wish to do so. Does lock in that outward position. A couple all-weather 110 volt outlets, nothing too crazy there. Again, just some all-weather outlets. This door here is would also, like the other side, allow you to access that tie-down point, but would also give you access to your sewage there. So what we have there is going to be your gray water dump valve, and to open up this valve, it is just going to be a 6-inch pull straight down. What we have here is going to be a standard bayonet style fitting. What you would do with that is you can go ahead and connect your sewage hose the very same way that that cap comes off. That's going to allow you to route your gray water away from your campsite or dump it in a dump receptacle. Moving on here, we have your furnace. This is a Dometic furnace. The source is going to be propane with 12 volt direct spark ignition. Thermostatically controlled there on the inside. What we have to watch out for here is going to be the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. Very important that we stop those guys from making their nest within the appliance. They are attracted to the smell of propane. What we're going to use to do so is going to be a aftermarket bug screen here in place or over place of that exhaust. Other than that, it is an exhaust vent. Let it exhaust. It does blow very hot air when it is on. Make sure we're not restricting the flow and also protecting it from the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. Outside sprayer here works very well. It's going to utilize a quick connect fitting there to allow that to connect, you're going to slide that locking collar back and then remove the male end, same on the way in. Then you have access to hot and cold water, of course, there on the sprayer. Would work well, of course, to wash your feet off if you go to the beach, wash off some critters. Also a great location to do water heater maintenance, which we're going to speak of here in just a few minutes. Dropping down low, not too terribly much to speak of. We do see your gray water holding tank here underneath the wing. Just make sure when we are loading and unloading that we're not going to damage that, scrape it, or do anything like that. Hopping back up here, again, that same style porch light that we've seen a couple times already. And then we have your refrigerator vents here. Again, this is going to be a large intrusion point for mud daubers and flying insects. So it is very important that we do protect it. Other than that, making sure we're not getting any critters in there. Be sure that we do give it a visual inspection a couple times a year. Make sure nothing has gotten in. Make sure there's no frayed wires, anything like that, cracked propane lines, things like that. Just give it a visual inspection. Chances are, if everything looks good and it is functioning properly, you're not going to have any issues with that. Now, the intrusion point that we're looking to protect is going to be here on the vent, and we have those vents top and bottom. Now, when replacing these vents, we're going to go ahead and put the tabs up first. Line up everything properly here on the bottom. And then once we are there, we're going to go ahead and turn these, give these a slight turn. I always go back and give it a tug, make sure it is in fact locked into place. Not something you want to lose going down the road. Here we have your 30 amp, 110 volt power inlet here. Now the way Northstar does it is they give you a 30 amp reducer, 30 to 15 amp reducer, and then they include a standard extension cord, for lack of a better word. If all the appliance within the unit should run properly here on this 15 amp extension cord, but in the event that you would like to run it on 30 amp service, you sure can, because that is the way it's wired. Whichever makes the most sense for you, you should be fine either way. And then we have your potable water fill here. So this is how we're going to fill the onboard water tank. If we're doing any boondocking or dry camping before we get there, we're going to stick a drinking water hose directly in that orifice. We're going to fill it up till it overflows. Now this is non-pressurized water, so we do need to use that onboard water pump to pressurize that system, draw that water up to the tank, or up to the fixtures, I should say, and make that water usable. Now if we drop down here, right here at the front corner, we have your city water connection. That's going to be what we use if we are in the capacity of an RV park, or if we have full-time access to running water. Now, water pressure becomes very important when we do talk about that city water connection. These units are generally rated for a working water pressure between 40 and 75 psi. It is very important that we do not exceed that 75 psi water pressure rating. Very important, we do include a water pressure regulator with your purchase. Now that water pressure regulator is going to hook directly onto the water source, your hose onto that, and then ultimately making your connection here on the camper side by rotating that hose connection. Now hopping up here to the water heater, this is a propane burning water heater with 12 volt direct spark ignition. Operation of this becomes very important, as well as maintenance. So from a safety standpoint, we want to make sure we're following the manufacturer's recommendation. Manufacturer recommends that if the unit is going to be in storage for more than 7 days, that we do go ahead and drain not only the water heater, but the complete system overall with the camper. We're going to get more to that when we go to on the inside, but if we're talking specifically about the water heater, the way that we're going to do that is, of course, number one, we're going to give it ample time to cool down, at least a few hours. Once we're fairly certain of the temperature, it's important that we do depressurize the unit before draining it. So to depressurize it, we're going to cut the overall flow of water to the unit overall. Once we've done that, we're going to go to the hot side of any spigot. As previously mentioned, this outside shower would be a great location for that. What we would do then is we're going to turn the hot side of that spigot on, or that fixture on, and then we're going to blow off the excess pressure here from the hose. We're going to go ahead and open that line up. We're going to see a little bit of water here, and we're going to hear that pressure blow off. Once we've done that, we are safe to come here and drain it. You have an 1 1/16 drain plug here, so you're going to use an 1 1/16 socket and extension. And once we've safely depressurized the unit, we can go ahead and back that drain plug out. Now that's not only a drain plug, but it is also your anode rod. What an anode rod does is it acts like a magnet for hard water deposits, calcification, things like that. They deposit to the anode rod, eat away at that as opposed to the inside of the water heater. It is a consumable part. I would expect to get a year or two in between anode rod changes. You're probably going to have to source that from an RV dealer. You'll know it's time to change because it starts out about 3/4 of an inch by 12 inch. When it's time to replace, it's going to look about the size of a pencil and be very decrepit. Now, manufacturer recommends that before returning the water heater back to service or before taking the unit out again, that we do prime the water heater or pump 6 gallons of water into the tank before lighting it or starting to heat that water. To do so, that's going to be a very similar process to depressurizing and drain it. But starting out, we're going to introduce an overall inflow of water to the unit. So if that's potable water, we're going to flip on that 12-volt water pump. If that's your city water connection, we're going to physically turn on that valve, making sure we have water flowing into the unit. We are then going to come over here to the outside shower or any internal fixture as well. And again, we're going to focus on that hot side. So we're going to turn that on. And we're going to come here and we're going to open up the valve here. Now what we're going to see is something slightly different. Initially that flow is going to be very interrupted from this source, very bubbly. What it's doing is it's displacing the air within the tank and refilling it with water. Once that flow normalizes here at the sprayer, that is our indicator that we do have 6 gallons of water within the tank, and we can go ahead and start heating our water. Other than that, other than those two very important specifications, make sure that we are, again, protecting it from the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. We have some louvers, we have some grating here. Again, it's not a matter of if as to when they will make their nest within the appliance. So it is very important from day one that we do protect it from the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. Now when we go ahead and put this cover on, we line up the prongs there on the bottom, and then we feed this latch through. Go ahead and give it a pull and a slight turn. That's going to go ahead and lock it on. That just about covers the 650 here on the exterior of the unit. We're going to hop inside and take a look at those features. All right, here on the interior of the unit, starting down low, we have your fire extinguisher. Now it is very important that we do test all of our safety equipment every single time we take the unit out. In the event of emergency, we want to make sure that's in good working condition. So with the fire extinguisher, we have a green test tab here on the top. If we go ahead and press that tab down and it springs back, that means there's pressure within the unit and it is working. So if that stays depressed, it's time to replace that fire extinguisher. Easy peasy. So also we have your blower motor here for your furnace. All your heat within the unit is going to come from this location. It does have a little louver here where you can directionalize that a bit. It is going to be slightly oversized for the unit, so you should have no problems controlling temperature again within the unit. Now all of your cabinetry here underneath this sink, they utilize these spring locks. If you have the button flush, that means you're locked. That drawer's not going to come open going down the road. And then, of course, when you open it, it gives you a nice pull handle to go ahead and open it. Also on this cabinet face, we have your GFI outlet. That is going to be your main receptacle. So all these receptacles are on the same circuit. This is going to be the reset location in the event that those units, or those receptacles, I should say, take a surge. This is again going to be that reset location. Hopping up here, we have your cooktop. Now this locks in the up position, so we go ahead and open that, and we would turn this to light. From there, if we hit that piezo igniter, it's going to go ahead and light that up. You can, of course, control the intensity of the burner. From there, when we do close that lid, we can see that locking mechanism. It is important that we lift up, and that's going to allow us to close there. Up here we of course have a standard sink. It does have a pull-out sprayer, and then you have also a couple different spray modes there. Hopping up here to your furnace thermostat. So this is only the thermostat for your furnace. Very easy. We turn it to heat, which is your only option, and then we choose our temperature here. That's going to kick on that blower motor immediately. 16 seconds after that, it actually ignites. By that 30-second mark, it's producing noticeable heat. Would not surprise me, if in a unit of this size it did actually set off the smoke alarm. Per manufacturer's recommendation, that's totally acceptable within the first 15 minutes of operation. So not something that would alarm me. Just keep that in mind. If in the event that that does happen, it will more than likely happen. Also, we have your refrigerator here. This is a three-way refrigerator. What that means is it runs on 110 volt electricity, propane gas, as well as 12 volt. Very easy to go ahead and choose your source here on the panel. You're just going to push the corresponding button. And then we have your temperature control here. The more bars, the cooler the unit is. And then we have a reset button here. So if we choose a source and that source is not available, the unit is going to alert you of that. This is just going to be acknowledgement of that alert. Other than that, nothing too crazy here on the inside. Does have those fancy blue lights, does have that removable ice box, and also it does have a door hold open. So that door hold open is built right here into the latch. If you go ahead and push this button in and at the same time kind of pull out, and these can always kind of be a little bit of a pain, but once you've overcome that release, if you go ahead and shut the door, it's going to keep that door open. That's for periods of long-term storage or periods for any amount of storage. Reason being is you just don't want it to be airtight in case you have any moisture in there or something like that. It will mildew. So hopping over to this side, a couple things going on. Of course, first up is going to be the window. These windows have the shades built directly in, so you have a screen option there. That way you can go ahead and open the window and you're not going to have any bugs come in, or you have your privacy shade there as well. Now if we go ahead and unlatch these two and we take a look at the operation of the window, you have latches, 4 latches all the way around the outside of the window. If we go ahead and undo each one of those latches, we have a few different adjustment points of how far that window opens. You know you're at one of those adjustment points if you hear a little click. And then to close it, we just go past one of those clicks and we go ahead and latch it. Now you do have a vent option built into the window itself. If we were to put all these latches in that middle valley, it's going to give you about a fingertip's worth of opening there. Of course, before going down the road, we want to make sure we are fully closed and pulled all the way back past that plastic. Now this unit also utilizes the Lagoon table mount. What that gives you is this multi-positional table, which is an excellent feature. This is not going to be used to make up this secondary sleeping area, so I'm going to show you how to kind of take that apart. To do so, you have handles on, let me position this in a way that, so you have handles here on each side of on each kind of piece of the unit. And these are kind of like ratcheting almost handles. So if they're in their normal resting position, the gearing within is going to be engaged. And we say we're trying to loosen it to remove the tabletop. My pull is interrupted by the tabletop. So to kind of get a fresh pull or release that gearing, I go ahead and pull out on that handle. That will allow me to go to that reset position and get another pull on it. So once I've loosened that, I can go ahead and remove the tabletop. And we're going to put him behind me. And then we can continue that with all the other pieces. So there's that. And then again, we're going to loosen this, pull him out of here. So once we've done that, we then take this bottom piece of the floor and we're going to put that in its place. Now with that secured on all sides, we can then take the last cushion, which is up top there in the bed area, and that's going to sit right here and fill out that space. Of course, then you have a nice secondary sleeping area. returning it back to service, we of course put everything back the way where we got it. This is going to go on the floor. We're then going to put the table back together. You have a track here, so you're just going to line that track up, slide that down. Once we've done so, we're going to tighten everything back up. Again, if we need to adjust that handle, we can easily do so. Put that on like so. And then we're going to do the same with the tabletop. And you just want to make sure that you work that all the way in, and then you can of course tighten it down. Now, best practice when you're going down the road, make sure this is halfway tight and kind of stowed off to the side here. Make sure everything's all nice and tight. That way it's not going to be swinging and moving around, putting stress on that mount when you're going down the road. Now also down here, we have another piece of your safety equipment. That's going to be your carbon monoxide LP leak detector. This is wired into the 12-volt section of the camper, so there's no batteries to change or anything like that. But it is important that we do test it again every time we take the unit out. So we have a test button there. We're going to go ahead and push that button, let it alert to us. That's going to tell us that it is in good working order. Now, we're going to go ahead and remove these cushions here and kind of throw that up top here. What I'm trying to do is kind of expose this area underneath the cab over. Quite a bit going on here in this compartment. So we have your freshwater holding tank here. Beside that, we have a sealed battery box. Now within that battery box is going to be a brand new Interstate D-cycle battery. It's a Group 24 battery. It is a lead acid battery, so it's going to carry a little bit of maintenance. What that entails is 2 or 3 times a year we're going to remove those vent panels there on the top of that battery, and we are going to refill with distilled water as necessary. Also within this compartment, we have your drain for that freshwater holding tank. You're going to have that guy right there. It transitions through the floor. It's going to dump your water directly from that location. Now also again in this same storage compartment, we have your water pump here. Now equipped on that water pump is going to be this vacuum line. We're going to use this to introduce antifreeze into the system in the event that we are doing a full winterization process. So we're going to go ahead and drain all the water from the unit. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and introduce introduce antifreeze from this location. So we're going to go ahead and shove this directly into our bottle of antifreeze. And if we follow this clear line back, we're going to see a valve further back right off the water heater. We're going to go ahead and turn that, right off the water pump. We're going to turn that valve into the secondary location or secondary position. Once we've done so, we're going to turn on the water pump. We're going to walk around from fixture to fixture, and then we are going to go ahead and as we turn each fixture on, that's going to allow that antifreeze throughout the system. Once we see that antifreeze at the fixture itself, we're going to again open up hot side, cold side. Once we see it at the fixture, that's our indicator that we are fully winterized and we are good to go. Also within that compartment, we have your jack board. Now that's going to be that board directly by the water pump. Now, of course, there are fuses on that board. Probably at some point during your ownership of the camper, you're going to be replacing one of those fuses. That's just the way it is. They are 15 amp automotive blade style fuses, so keep that in mind. But the most important thing is going to be here on the left side of the board. Dead center, it says remote in right there. What that means is that if your remote, which I have here in my pocket, if your remote were to run out of batteries, you can physically plug that remote directly into the board and operate it that way. What you're going to do is inside your messenger bag, you're going to see a coiled communication cord. We're going to, of course, make this connection here. We're going to plug the other side in the location there on the board. That's going to allow you to operate this remote hardwired. Now, also hopping up here out of that compartment, we have your fuse panel breaker box here. Again, we see those automotive blade style fuses utilized. Not a bad idea to pick up a spare variety pack of fuses. That way we have everything taken care of in the event that they do go out on you out on the road. We also have some breakers there, a couple resettable breakers. Just like in your fuse panel box at home, those are resettable standard light switch style breakers. To the right of that, we have your battery disconnect switch. Now that battery disconnect switch is going to be utilized for periods of long-term storage. What we're going to do, it is clearly marked on and off, but easier than that is if you can go ahead and remove the key. You see everything went dark. That means we have disconnected or isolated that battery. If we go ahead and turn that to the on position, everything go ahead and starts back up for us. You're going to utilize that for periods of long-term storage. So with any 12-volt system, there's going to be nominal or phantom background draws within that system. That is just to isolate that battery so it doesn't go dead while you're storing the unit. And then right above that, we have your Ryco Titan switch. That is just a momentary switch for the lift system. We're going to kind of focus on that. When we do close the unit up, you'll get to see that. We will touch base on that at the very end of this presentation. And then right above that, we have your water heater switch. Now, that is just a on-off toggle switch. That red light's going to come on with the on of that switch. Now, that water heater is up to temperature for us, so it's not going to do anything for us. Now, if I turn that on, that red light's going to come on. That red light's essentially just our indicator on whether or not the water heater has lit. So you may see that switch come on and off while it's going through its lighting cycle. Basically, if you come back 5 minutes later and that red light's still on, then that means that the water heater has not lit. Generally, the culprits for that are going to be either you're out of propane gas in the tank, you don't have the valve on top of the tank on. Even more unlikely than that is in a unit of this size, maybe the propane gas hasn't made its way through the line to the appliance. Either way, if that happens, go ahead and investigate. Make sure you actually have propane in the tank. Make sure that valve's on. If you have both of those things, just flip that switch off, flip it back on. It will recycle again. Generally, as long as you've corrected the issue, it's going to light on the first try of that second cycle. Next up from that water heater switch, we have your water pump switch. Again, that's clearly marked on off. That's going to pressurize that water system. Again, bring that water up from this tank to the fixtures to make it usable. And then we have this toggle switch above that. That's going to be the underlighting there on the wings. Now that wasn't on when we were outside, but you do have a nice LED strip, light strip on each side of the camper. Again, as kind of a ground light or ground effects, but that is going to be the switch to turn that on and off. To the left of those switches, if we go ahead and open up this door, this is going to give us access to the water heater bypass. Now I mentioned the winterization process earlier here just a few minutes ago. Before we would do that winterization process, it's very important that we do bypass that water heater. We don't want to pump that water heater full of 6 gallons of antifreeze. Reason being, number one, is that's a lot of antifreeze to be wasted within the water heater. And number two, because it is a closed tank, it is very hard to rinse that out. So easiest thing to do is just going to go ahead and bypass it. You're going to do so once you open up this cabinet. You're going to see a valve staring you directly here into the face. Just go ahead and move that into that secondary position, and that's all you need to do to go ahead and bypass that water heater. Above that, 12-volt charging center, a couple USBs, 12-volt cigarette lighter style receptacle there. Moving up here to the bed. Really not too terribly much that we haven't spoke of already. We have these cabinetries. You do have that lift up storage there underneath the bed, which is an excellent feature. And then last but not least, we have your air conditioner here. Very easy. We are not plugged into shore power, so we're not going to actually see this turn on, but of course you have a thermostat here, hot and cold. And then we have different fan speeds here. Your indicator is going to be the facing forward. So we have low fan, low cool, high cool, and then off. So just choose your source here on this first knob, and then your secondary knob is going to be your temperature control. You have filters on each side. Those are easily removable. They are reusable. Rinse them off in the sink, let them dry. put them back there in their home, and you're going to be good to go for years to come. Now, one other thing I didn't talk about is going to be your smoke alarm. Now, that is a standard 9-volt smoke alarm, just like you have at home. It does have a test button, functions very well. It will let you know when it needs to be changed. And make sure we do test that every single time we take the unit out. Now, we're going to be closing the unit up. We're going to utilize this fantastic fan to do so. What we're going to do is once we get everything kind of folded down, we're going to run this as an exhaust fan only. So what that's going to do is that's going to be your best friend when it comes to loading this up, because we're going to shut everything down. We're going to close the door, and we're going to put the lift system about halfway down. What that's going to do is that's going to suck all that fabric in. Now, when you're operating it as a normal fan, which would be you know, how you're going to utilize it mostly, you're going to open up these screens all the way around. This is powerful enough to get you a nice cross breeze. It's going to be very comfortable in here. Of course, we have it on and running. You also have a thermostat on the unit. You can set that at a comfort temperature. It's going to kick on and off to attain that temperature. And then we have your speed controls here. You do have 3 speed settings there, a lock for when the lid is closed, and then we have a fuse here. So from there, we're going to go ahead and cut, and we're going to go ahead and shut everything down, and you'll kind of see that working from the outside as we go ahead and close everything up. All right, so here on the inside, we have already put that lift system about halfway down. We have that fan running in reverse. I'm going to go ahead and close the unit or let that lift system come all the way down. And once we've done so, I'm going to go ahead and close up that fan, make sure I lock that down. And then we're going to come out there to the inside and make sure that we latch everything down. Now, it's very important that we do latch everything down nice and tight. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and exit the unit here. And if we come around here to the side of the unit, you see you have latches front and back, left and right on the unit. Now these latches are in there, they are in their longest point when they are flat. So you may have to put your hand on here. We want a nice tight closure there. So you may have to kind of compress it slightly. There are seals there. We want a nice tight closing. And then so I do that front to back. I come around here to this side, do the very same. And everything is locked up and stowed away as it should be. That just about covers it here on the Northstar 650. We hope you enjoyed the walkthrough. If you do have any questions or concerns, maybe something we can re-explain or something that we've missed, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We'd be happy to further walk you through over the phone. Thank you very much. Have a great day.